We're on mute. There we go. How are we, lads? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. My name is Nick from Australia, and welcome to another live stream for your Tuesday evening. It is 7:32 p.m. for January 7, 2025. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone had a fantastic New Year's. We're back in action. We've got the NRL preseason coming up in about a month, so time to get back into the rugby league content. All things. And of course, guys, if you are new around here, hope I can get you to like the stream and subscribe to the channel. Hope everyone is doing well. It is a very, very warm afternoon, so apologies about the sweat. It's just very warm at the moment. Hello to the chat. We got Liam. We've got Riley. We've got Lockie, SS Storm fan. Cody's Footy World, Jason Reader, the honourable legend himself, CJ Moxley, Josh Rabbitohs, Jeffrey, Will, everyone that's here. I hope you are all doing fantastic. Welcome back to another stream. Tonight's live stream is about one player from your NRL club that needs to step up in 2025. I think they need, I think there's a player at every club that needs to step up, and it's going to be a big season. It's going to be an awesome season. Looking forward to it. The countdown is on, and I should also announce that tomorrow I've got another live stream set up for 10 NRL upsets for 2025. But the big announcement that I need to get off my chest, guys, and it's really important. You guys will love this. This Saturday night, around probably 7 or 8 o'clock, I'm not sure yet on the exact time. I'll work that out through the week. This Saturday night, I will be live on YouTube to reveal my NRL 2025 predictions. You will see my official ladder prediction from 17 to 1. You will see my Dally M prediction. You will see my top try scorer, my top point scorer prediction, coach of the year prediction, who's going to rise out of all the teams from last year, who's going to fall off a cliff and go down the ladder. And the reason I'm doing it this Saturday night is because from Saturday, it will be 50 days until round 1 of the NRL kicks off, obviously with the Vegas games. So from this Saturday, we will be 50 days from the NRL season getting underway. And I think it's a great time to get my predictions out. So this Saturday, NRL 2025 predictions. Get ready. It's going to be a blockbuster. It's going to be a big live stream. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you there. It's going to be a big one, man. Very anticipated. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, now let's get to tonight's live stream. And if you guys remember, I did a video like this last year where I did one play from your club that needs to step up. And I'm going to run it back and do it again. We're going to run it back and we're going to do it again. So let's start off. We're going to go through each team. And we'll start from last year's bottom ladder all the way to the top. And we'll see how this list ends up going. But let's get into it, guys. So for the West Tigers, who needs to step up for the West Tigers in 2025? Well, considering how bad they were last year, there's a number of players that I think need to step up. But I'm going to go with a guy they recruited last year. Didn't have the greatest year. I'm going to go with Justin Olam. Now, Justin Olam, we know how good of a player he is. He's a very, very good center on his day. Top tier NRL center when he's 100% fit. But obviously, going to the West Tigers, he was joining a losing culture, and things just weren't going great for Justin Olam last season. I think he needs a really big 2025. There's a lot of kids at the Tigers coming through. Obviously, they recruited Taruva and Gerald Skelton to add to that back line. So, Justin Olam, although I do think he will start for the Tigers if he's fit and healthy, but with the way the Tigers are building some good young talent through the system, he won't be a guarantee by round 15, I don't believe. So Olam, he needs a big season, man. He needs to step up in 2025. He's got a lot of talent. He just needs to go to that next level. Now, for the Rabbitohs, I don't think he had a bad year last year, but I feel like when I look at the Rabbitohs, I think their forward pack is probably the weakness, especially depth-wise. But this guy has the potential to be the Rabbitohs leader when it comes to the front row. And I'm going to go with Tevita Totola. Now, Totola didn't have a terrible year. He didn't. Totola did not have a bad year last year. He tried really hard in a disappointing, frustrating Rabbitohs team. But I think now with Tom Burgess moved on and Jai Arrow coming back as that experienced leader, I think Tevita Totola now has a good opportunity to really step up and be that front row forward that the Rabbitohs need. Because when you look at the Rabbitohs and you look at their forward pack, right, you see Cam Murray, absolute gun. You see Keon Kalamatangi, absolute gun. I'm just outside of those two, I'm not really seeing a big name front row. Now, I know he did get injured and he did miss a lot of last season, but Totola, man, even when he played, he didn't look like his normal self. I'm expecting 2025 to be a really big season from Tevita Totola. Not that he had a bad year in the games he played, but he definitely wasn't at his best. We've seen Totola. I mean, you go back to 2022, he had a really good season there. In 2023, played well in that season as well. But Totola, man, really talented player. I know he was injured a lot of last year, but I think he's going to be a really good player for the Rabbitohs, and he could go to that next level, in my opinion. So for the Rabbitohs, I'm going to go with Tevita Totola. Now, for the Eels, I'm going with Junior Paulo. Now, I'm not here to bag players. I'm just here to give my 10 cents on how I think they've been going. And Junior Paulo, it's a weird one with Paulo because although he did get injured, I think, at the back end, Junior Paulo is meant to be a leader. He's meant to be the experienced front row at the Eels and leading that club by example. But we saw last year with how Parramatta were absolutely diabolical. They were dreadful last season. Junior Paulo was very lazy last season. There were so many games last year where you'd see him walking and wasn't putting in the effort like guys who were out there every week having a go, like Kalma Talangi when he was healthy, and guys like Jermaine Hopgood, guys that were fit, that were trying hard in a really, really ordinary Parramatta side. Junior Paulo, man, good player, but last season I thought he was a bit lazy and he just wasn't at his best. So I do think Junior Paulo is a good player, and I think he has potential to be the Eels' main leader in this side. And he probably should be, really, when you look at Parramatta's forward pack. But he needs to step up this season, man. Paulo needs to step up and go to another level. So for the Eels, I'm going with Junior Paulo. Needs a big season. Now for the Gold Coast, let me fix that because I didn't realise my spelling was shocking. But guys, it's got to be David Fifita. David Fifita. Now look, I'm not here to bash the Titans. I'm not here to crap on them too much, but my God, they took a big gamble on David Fifita in 2021. Yeah, he's played a couple of Origin series and whatnot, but last season, David Fifita was absolutely nowhere to be seen. Now, he was overlooked by the Origin side, and if you go back to Game 3, I think he should have been in the team. If you go back to my old podcast and whatever, you would see that I said that. Now, for a guy like David Fifita, who's on $1 million a year, he's on huge money at the Gold Coast. He's meant to be their best player. Last season, absolutely shocking. Nowhere to be found. Didn't make the Origin team. Ended up getting dropped. I don't even know if he played Origin last year. He might have played Game 1 and then got dropped. I can't even remember. But David Fifita, for that kind of money, for that type of player, I don't believe the Gold Coast are getting value for money for that with David Fifita. There's no way in the world. And his form's dropped off a cliff. absolutely dropped off a cliff. And you go back to last year, there were some games where Des Hazard would put Fafita on the bench, and it was just a disaster. It really was. So David Fafita, with the money that he's on and with the expectation he has on himself and playing with a club that hasn't really had any success in the Gold Coast Titans, he needs a big season. David Fafita, he needs a big 2025. Absolutely no doubt about it. Now, we go across the ditch to New Zealand. Now, the Warriors. I'm going to go with Tuivasa-Sheck. And look, I'm a big Roger Tuivasa-Sheck fan. I've always liked him. He's always been a good rugby league player. But I think last season, obviously coming back from rugby union, it just didn't work, did it? It just didn't really work. He was playing in the centers a lot, which is a position that he hasn't really played at NRL level. But when you look at it, he's a former Dally M medalist. He's a talented player. Maybe center just wasn't the position for him. Maybe he has to go to fullback. Maybe go back onto the wing, because I don't know if center is his best position. I really don't know. I don't think it is. We've seen him at fullback. Won the Dally M in 2000 and what year was it? 2018. I think he won the Dally M, or 19. I think it was 18. And then you look at, on the wing when he was at the Roosters, he was good there as well. So Roger is a very important player at the Warriors, and he needs a big season, I think. I really do believe Tuivasa-Sheck needs a really big 2025. He didn't have the greatest year last year, and I think a bounce back for RTS is needed if the Warriors are going to go well. Now, to the Broncos, my arch nemesis, the Broncos. I'm going to go with Selwyn Cobbo. Now, Cobbo, I'm not going to say that him in the centers was a failure. I don't believe it was. He had some very solid, good games of rugby league in the centers. He did. He really did. But, man, a bit like Junior Paulo before, Cobbo, man, he can be very lazy. He can be very lazy. We've seen Cobbo at his best. He's a top 5 winger when he's on the wing. We saw in 2023 how good of a winger Selwyn Cobbo really was on that right edge. Him and Kotoni Staggs had a very good combination. But Cobbo last season, he played a bit of center, played a bit of wing. He looked a bit lazy in some of those games where they were getting blown out. It was just a disappointing season from the Broncos, and Cobbo's form really fell into that Broncos form where they just weren't going great. So Cobbo has an opportunity now to get himself rock hard fit in the preseason and have a really big 2025. And he needs to step up, man, because he's a really good player and he's played Origin. So expectations of Selwyn Cobbo are pretty high in my opinion. He needs a big year. He really does. Now, speaking of former Origin players, let's go to the Dragons. I'm going to go Francis Molo. What the hell has happened to Francis Molo? This bloke was a State of Origin front rower off the bench for Queensland a couple of years ago. He hasn't even had a look in since. You remember him at the Cowboys, coming off the bench, really solid front rower. I think he started quite a bit, and then he ended up playing for Queensland and whatever, going down to the Dragons, and he has not been able to find himself. It's a little bit frustrating for me because I look at Francis Molo and I see a really talented front rower there who can put on some really big hits and play some good footy, but his form last year was really down. Even when the Dragons were winning games last year and they were hanging around the top 8, Molo wasn't the one leading them. It was the likes of Jack de Belin, the likes of the Cashman brothers, the likes of who else come back? Was it Fatala Mariner? I think it was. So Molo, man, I want to see Francis Molo step up in 2025, get back into that State of Origin form that he was once in, and try and get back in that Queensland side and play some consistent footy, because that's the problem with Francis Molo. He's not playing consistent footy, and I think he needs a big 2025. I really do. I really believe that. Dolphins. I'm going to go Jake Averillo. Now, the Dolphins one I found difficult because the Dolphins had a lot of really good players last year. Obviously, they missed the top 8, but I feel like Jake Averillo, he's a bit of a weak link when it comes to the outside backs of the Dolphins. And look, it's not a knock on Averillo. He's a very talented player. I just don't know if center is his best position. I feel like he could be a 5'8", or he could be a fullback maybe. I don't know. But Averillo, sort of, he was just there last year, sort of just out there in the centers. Didn't do a whole lot, it was just there, talented player, but I think he needs a big year. Like, you look at the Dolphins, you know what you're going to get from the hammer. Herbie Farmworth. We saw the rise of Jack Botstock. We know how good Asako is. Averillo's the one that's left out. So, good player, talented player, but just don't know what it is about Averillo. I feel like there's something missing in his game. So, I think he really needs to step up in 2025. I think he's a talented player, and I'm really intrigued to see how he goes going forward. Now, for the Raiders, I'm going to go with Sebastian Kris. Now, Sebastian Kris in 2024 was all right, but we know he can go to another level. We saw in 2023 how good of a season Sebastian Kris had. He had a lot of good games at fullback, played a little bit of center, had a little bit of wing, but he played a lot of fullback that year, and he was really good. He was really good that year. And last year he played a little bit of fullback, and then he moved into the centers, and sort of he stayed at left center for a lot of the season, but he just didn't really have the season that you would have thought. He wasn't as good as other centers, and I feel like Tomoko was playing better than him at the time, and other players at Canberra were really stepping up. And Sebastian Kris is one of those players where he's been around for a while now. He's a good talent, but needs to go to that next level, man. So I'm really interested to see the development of Sebastian Kris in 2025. I think he needs a big year, and I'm expecting him to really step up this season going forward. I think he's a good player, and he needs to go to that next level. Now, Newcastle, Jacob Saifiti. Now, Jacob Saifiti a couple of years ago, he was the State of Origin front rower for New South Wales. He would start. Sometimes he would come off the bench. Jacob Saifiti, one hell of a front rower. Very good player. I feel like last year he was good, but he can go to another level. He was completely overlooked in the Origin. Completely overlooked. I think they went with Barnett over Saifiti. And look, man, Saifiti's a talent. He's a really good player. Once an Origin player, needs to try and get back to that form. And I think he can. But he obviously wasn't there last year, and there's levels to this game, man. And Jacob Saifiti, great player, but needs to go to that next level for me. So I think Jacob Saifiti needs to step up in 2025. Manly. Going to go with a guy who's had some problems with defense, although his attack, there's nothing wrong with his attack, but his defense is an issue. And I'm talking about Reuben Garrick. Reuben Garrick. This bloke is a gun. Reuben Garrick is a gun. Great goal kicker, scores a lot of tries, plays good footy. But you know what his downside is? It's his defense. We saw last year Garrick and Saab as a combination in defense. Absolutely shocking. He could not make a tackle to save his life. And I look at Reuben Garrick and I'm like, this guy could play State of Origin one day. He's got talent, but his defense is what lets him down. So I'm really intrigued to see how Reuben Garrick goes this year. It could be a bit like Cobbo. He can do a job in the centres, but he's a better winger. And when I look at Reuben Garrick, I see a really good NRL winger. Could play Origin one day, honestly, really could. But defense is the part he lacks, and that's what he needs to fix up in his game. So Ruben Garrick needs to step up in 2025 for sure. But his attack is fantastic. For the Bulldogs, I'm actually going to go with Reed Mahoney. Now, Reed Mahoney is a very, very interesting player. He's on the cuff of being a grub. I'm sure if you call him a grub, I don't think he'll really care about it too much. But Reed Mahoney, look, he did have a good year at the Bulldogs. You can't say he didn't have a good season. But some of his stuff, some of his dirty tactics definitely cost the Bulldogs. I mean, you go back to that finals game against Manly. There was some stuff in that game where I think Reed Mahoney, if he had his time over again, he'd definitely change a few things in that game that he did. And there were other games throughout the season where some of his penalties and whatever were just completely unnecessary. And with all due respect to Reed Mahoney, I think he's a great hooker, probably top 7 hooker in the NRL. But the reason why he hasn't played State of Origin yet is not because Harry Grant's in front of him. The reason is it's his goddamn attitude, man. It's his lack of discipline. Reed Mahoney should have already debuted for Queensland off the bench as a 14. But it hasn't happened yet because his attitude and his discipline just hasn't been there. So Reed Mahoney needs to fix that up, I think, going into 2025. I know that he probably will always go close to the boundaries. He's always going to push boundaries, but he needs to know when to step over the line or not, and that's what he needs to fix up going into 2025. But great player. Now for the Cowboys, look, it's hard to be critical because I'm a Cowboys fan. I don't want to be too critical, but this bloke for the Cowboys had a very good year last year. He was solid. He played well, but I'm waiting for this guy to go from this level to this next level stuff. And I'm talking about Griffin Neame. Griffin Neame, absolute gun. Griffin Neame is a fantastic player. I really like Griffin Neame. He does a great job for us off the bench. And when he starts, he plays really well. But Griffin Neame at the moment, he's at this level. He's a solid front rower. I'm waiting for Griffin Neame to take the next step and go to this level, to get up the ladder. Because think of it like this, right? You're in an elevator. You're in a 12-story hotel, right? There are 12 floors in the hotel. Griffin Neame right now, he is on level 7, level 8. He's between there. I'm waiting for Griffin Neame to get to level 10, level 11. Go to that next step. If you go back to the 2023 Pacific Championships, we saw Griffin Neame in that final against Australia where he absolutely exploded. He scored a try. He had one of the best games he's ever played in his career. So I want to see that Griffin Neame week in, week out at the Cowboys. He's a great player, man. But I think Griffin Neame has the potential to be our best prop. He has the potential to be our best prop. Griffin Neame is on level 7, level 8 right now. I want to see him get to level 10, level 11. And no, he can't play Origin, bro. He's from New Zealand. He's a Kiwi. But Griffin Neame, great player. I really rate him. I think he had a great year last year. But I want to see him take the next step. Get up that elevator, man. Get up that elevator. Now, Cronulla, Will Kennedy. I kind of feel sorry for Will Kennedy a little bit because a lot of people are bagging Will Kennedy. A lot of other content creators are talking about these other young kids. The Sharks have got at fullback, but you need to give Will Kennedy a bit of respect here. He's been the Sharks fullback for a number of years now, but obviously there's something in his game that isn't working to get the Sharks to that next level. Obviously they got high reps on Kay Dykes and a couple of these other young kids, but Will Kennedy, man, in attack, fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. In defense, few little problems in defense. Definitely needs to work on that going forward. But yeah, Will Kennedy, I'm a fan. I think he's a good player. But if he wants to stay the Sharks fullback, he's going to need to step up a little bit in 2025. Needs to go to that next level for sure. But hell of a talent. Now, Roosters. I'm going with Dom Young. I'm going to go with Dominic Young. Now, you go back to 2023, right? Dominic Young, 2023 at the Newcastle Knights. He was a top 3 winger. He was unbelievable. We saw how good he was that year. As for 2024, Dominic Young, definitely not the same level. Definitely not. Definitely fell back a couple of steps. Dominic Young was on the 8th floor in the elevator. He was an 8 out of 10 at the Knights. He went down to about a 5 or 6 2024. He fell down a couple of stairs and he just wasn't the same. So, look, he is the England winger. He's an international. I am going to have faith in him and I think he will bounce back, but he needs to really step up, man, because his defense last year wasn't great. And every time teams would play the Roosters, they would always target Dom Young's wing because defensively, they know it's a weak spot of his game. So he needs a big year, Dominic Young. He really does. He needs a big year. That is for sure. Now, on to the Panthers. Now, Panthers and Storm are very hard to choose because obviously they're in the grand final and there's not many weaknesses in those sides. But for the Panthers, I will say, in defense, this guy's got problems in defense and he needs to really fix that up if he's going to be a top-tier center in this game. And I'm talking about Isaac Tago. Isaac Tago. Again, like a lot of these players on this list, great season. Scores tries, sets them up, played well. But defensively is where Isaac Tago has some problems. He has some issues. Defensively, that's one part of his game that he really needs to work on in the preseason. I don't think his position's in doubt or anything like that, but defensively, that is a weak part of his game. And if you go back and watch a lot of the Panthers games from last season, a lot of the tries from the opposition were on Tago's edge. And that's one part of his game I think needs fixing. But overall, he's a good center. He's a good talent. Could be an Origin player one day. I'm sure there's potential for that. But he's got to work on his defense before he gets into those Origin type games. And for the Storm one was hard, man. It really was because a lot of them didn't have a bad year. A lot of them were great. So I've come up with someone that comes off the bench a little bit, and I think this guy can go to another level. A bit like Griffin Neame. Didn't have a bad year, but I think this bloke can go to another level. And I'm going to go with Tui Kamikamifa. Tui Kamikamifa. This bloke is a gun. This bloke is a very, very good front rower. I love everything about him. He's a talent. He plays good footy. But Tui Kamikamifa, man, there's some parts of his game where I noticed a lot last year where he was walking back on side when there was fatigue in the Melbourne Storm and whatnot. And that's probably the only thing really lacking in his game. It's probably a little bit of discipline. But Tui Kamikamifa, we know how good of a player he is. I think he can go to another level. I really do. But definitely needs to show a bit more effort areas and just needs to play a bit more consistent footy for me. But Kamikamifa, very good front rower and looking forward to seeing how he goes in 2025. All right, well, that's pretty much the list done. So I'll just go through it quickly with you guys. So one play from your NRL club that needs to step up in 2025 for the Tigers, we're going to go with Justin Olam. For the Rabbitohs, we're going to go with Tavita Totola. For the Eels, we're going to go with Junior Paulo. For the Titans, David Fafita. For the Warriors, we're going to go with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. For the Broncos, Selwyn Cobbo. Dragons, Francis Molo. Dolphins, Jake Avarillo. For the Raiders, we're going to go with Sebastian Chris. For the Knights, we're going to go with Jacob Saifiti. Manly, we're going to go Ruben Garrick. Bulldogs, Reed Marnie. For the Cowboys, Griffin Neame. For Cronulla, we're going to go with Will Kennedy. Roosters, Dom Young. Panthers, Isaac Tago. And for the Storm, Tui Kamikamifa. All right, guys. Well, that's going to wrap things up from my end. I am sweating. I'm just sweating. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap things up here. I'll be live tomorrow night where I'll be doing 10 NRL upsets. That will happen in 2025. Get ready for that tomorrow night. That's going to be a big one. Anyway, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Like and subscribe, guys. I would really appreciate that. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday evening, and I will see you guys tomorrow night. Anyway, take care. See you in the next one. Where's this outro? See you later.